Well, I got one question for you. How do you rebuild your 4.3 V6? Because I just eyeball it. Just go out, do something that makes you happy, but make sure you're doing it on full blast. In all seriousness, folks, I have measured everything and made sure our main bearings were similar size. The old ones, I could never get sizes off the old part numbers, so I just kind of mic'd everything and made sure we were ballpark. Clean the block, hone the cylinders with just a ball hone, 30 seconds in and out with some oil in the cylinder. Just knock the glaze off. That's it. So we're starting at the studs, like Chip Gaines, and we're gonna build it up. Well, we're gonna build it this way a little bit, then that way, if that makes any sense to you. But what we need to do right now is get our crank placed in. We need to just wipe it down, clean it off, get it set in here on the new bearings that I've already ultra slicked, and start kind of torquing the mains in, because this is kind of where you got to start. Put your crank, and then we can start dropping pistons in and do our rods and our rod bearings. So let's go ahead, grab the crank, drop it in. Okay, let's grab the crank, get it in there. Everything's been wiped down with the ultra slick assembly lube. It's kind of my favorite go-to one. So what you want to do is just have all your mains lubed, everything on the motor already ready to go. You don't need to oil under the bearings. So that surface, just leave it clean, dry. And you want to have lube on everything else. So now, some guys like to check. So the crank that came out of this engine, the crank and bearings, it had 0 front to back movement. This one's the same exact way. So that's a good sign. I mean, you couldn't pry it with a screwdriver and make it move. I guess that's the way General Motors designed these engines with this thrust bearing. It ain't moving at all. So I got some mains down here. Just want to make sure these guys have been sitting here for a minute. Make sure they're all clean, installed correctly. Yep, looks like it. I wiped these guys down just to make sure. And my hands are just covered in oil from all this assembly lube. That's kind of what you're gonna see on these bearings. It's not a big deal. What you want to avoid is trash. So get your assembly lube all over your bearing. Make sure you're oriented. See, on mine, it's number 1 going forward. That was an arrow at one point. And I got number 2 here. Go ahead and throw some lube on it. This stuff is like spider webs everywhere. You want to make sure everything's kind of falling in place. Nothing is like lots of effort to get it where it needs to go. This stuff, any more than a tiny tap, there's something probably out of place. Now, to get these old bearings out, you can just kind of push on the side of them. Not on that side though. And they'll start to slide out, and you can remove them. And you want to clean, get this guy as clean as you can. And definitely some scoring in there. So again, this side dry. I'm guessing that's for when you torque, you don't want that lube trapped between the two metal surfaces that don't spin. I'm guessing. That was a pretty solid engagement there. Our last one, it'll be a little different looking. This guy holds a thrust washer, part of the oil pump here. This one might be a little bit more to get off. Trying to twist, get this thing just to lift a little bit. All right, let me grab a better tool. All right, got that old bearing out, new bearing on. You want to get all corners on this thing everywhere. Got our arrow going forward. Okay, you've just installed all the main bearings on a V6 90-degree General Motors 4.3. So now I'm gonna grab the torque wrench. I'm gonna do it in 3 steps. I believe it's 80 foot-pounds on the mains. I'm about to take a look, but I'm gonna suck everything down just a little bit at a time, because you just don't want your crank to get kind of twisted when there's so much tension on one side and not on the other. You kind of want to do this evenly. All right, so as you tighten down in your 3 steps, you always too want to continue to check that you got spin and no binding or no weird like lopes, like where it's got a real easy spot. Everything, the tension should feel the same all the way around 360 degrees. And this is torque to 80 foot-pounds. Perfect, perfect application. So we're gonna need to flip it, start dropping pistons in. So we're gonna need to keep torque wrench handy for the rods and to be able to spin the crank. And you're gonna need to hose out all your bores, make sure everything's perfectly clean, and then oil them also. So you want no resistance on those rings, or just very little as they're sliding through the bore. You don't want it to scratch the piston as it's going down, scratch the bore. So let me go ahead and grab a rag. I'm gonna clean everything and then I'll grab the first piston. All right, got number 4 loaded into our piston installer from Summit, and it's for a 4-inch bore. Just wanna make sure you got the right installer tool for that. All you gotta do is just kind of squeeze your rings down and compress this over the top of them. And then should be able to just pretty easily tap the piston in. You want to make sure your rods aren't going to come into contact with your crank. So you're kind of looking here, and there we go, move the crank way down. So we are in the bore, we're out of the compressor. Now we can either spin the crank around till it meets our piston we're installing. There's absolutely no reason why I chose this one, but it was loaded in, and why not? So now we need to clean our surface for our rod bearing and grab those guys. So we're going full rebuild. Rods and mains, hobo style. No machining, no nothing. Right. You want, again, to lube the outer part of the bearing that's gonna be riding on the crank. And I probably could have installed this onto the piston before, and it'd have been easier. Made this hard on myself. I'm gonna flip the motor. Piston didn't fall out, that's a good sign. The rings are doing something. There we go. Got the tang in finally. All right. I'm looking at our bearing, making sure we're still in the right spot. Take our old bearing, wipe this guy out, grab our assembly lube. I have all of our orientations marked. This is number 4, arrow going forward. Okay. I'll look up the torque specs on the rods here. Go ahead and torque this guy down and then get to do it 5 more times. Then we got, I don't know, at least a bottom end. There we go. Okay guys, got all the pistons in, and yes, I left pretty much all the carbon. I'm gonna test out some motor purr through the intake, see how much of the carbon that stuff will actually eat off. I've heard some really good things, though. I just kind of wanted to put it to the test. I mean, this isn't really thick, it's just a real thin layer, so why not? If you've never put cylinder heads, because that's what we're jumping to next, on an engine, especially Chevrolet, because all the thread holes you're going to need to put a sealant in, do yourself a favor, get you a thread chaser. And I've already done it. Run your thread chaser in and out. I do it about 2 times just to make sure it spins very easily. So step 1, thread chase, then clean your surface. You want to hit it with brake clean, acetone, something to get this just as clean as you possibly can. So now we will start threading in our ARP head studs. So on this engine, you're gonna have, let's see, you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 short studs, 2 medium length studs on each end, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 long studs. And ARP wants you to hand thread these guys in. Do not tighten them. There's a little slot for an Allen. Don't hit it with an Allen. Hand tighten only. And this shouldn't be that big of a deal if you've cleaned your threads. And every Chevy of this generation, you're going to be going into a water jacket, something. Just make sure you got sealant on your studs. And then we're gonna wipe all this stuff off once we're through. But yeah, you can get this guy all the way down just by hand. So no torquing needed. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a goo it up person when it comes to this thread sealer. I do not want to be dealing with a head gasket issue, and it's because I didn't put enough thread sealer on a bolt. That's not how I roll. So I'm gonna go ahead, get all the studs in, then we'll throw the gasket on, the head on, and we'll start torquing it down. Okay, we got all our studs installed. We've got all our sealant wiped up. Now it's time to throw the head gasket on, and it's a good opportunity to look. Is there anything wrong with it before you throw it on there? And most head gaskets will say top or bottom. This guy doesn't say anything, but it does have writing on this side. So good rule of thumb, if it has writing, put that side up. She should be a pretty tight fit over these studs. So don't be alarmed if you gotta kind of wiggle it here and there. So boom, make sure all your portholes line up on these guys. And now it's time to grab a cylinder head. I've already cleaned this guy up, and then she should just slide right on. You really want to be careful not to nick the threads. So feels like we're kind of riding. There we go. It's seated. It was the little lineup pins that these things have kind of needed to seat in the cylinder head. So now there's all the same washers and nuts. And some of these washers, if you get them from ARP, they'll be beveled on one end or the other, and they'll tell you which side to put it up. This is just a regular old flat washer. Okay, last thing I can button up here before I gotta wait on camshaft, because I need to get that guy in and get the timing set on. Want to do all that, then timing cover, oil pan. I believe you have to put the timing cover on first, then the oil pan on these cars. So oil pump, super simple. There's one bolt. Tighten that guy down. You got to press your pickup in. I think I got enough room here to clear it. Torque wrench set to 65 foot-pounds. Send it. No gasket under here. All right. And all you got to want to make sure is you have your distributor drive shaft installed and your little plastic retainer there. So that's really it, man. Oil pumps are very simple to put on, especially if your motor's outside of the car. Oh, come on. Come on, see. Got it over. Man, I'm getting weak. This is a V6. I was spinning that 454 around on the Chevy not too long ago. Jeez. Need to hit the gym. Okay, the camshaft has finally come in. So part number 56-460-8, 500 lift, intake 510 exhaust. Let's see, duration at 50, 215, 220. So this is probably about as aggressive as you want to go with a turbo build. You could maybe do a little bit more if your engine revved higher, but you know, this thing is $6 grand pushing all the luck. So this is a roller cam, and I've never gotten a camshaft that was drier than the way this thing was shipped. Like, there's just nothing on it. I couldn't believe it that it didn't have any surface rust, but maybe they're putting some sort of freaking nano coating or something on these to keep them from rusting. But we got something that'll fix that. So if you've never done a cam in one of these balance shaft engines, you know, don't be scared. You have a dot on your balance shaft, and after you put your cam and your cam plate on, you got a dot on this guy, and you're just gonna mesh the gears together. Not a big deal. It goes on, and then you put your timing on. But we're gonna need to lube this guy up quite a bit. Nothing too special getting a cam installed, but what you want to look out for is if it's really, really difficult to push in. If it's super difficult, then you probably have an issue with your cam bearings. There's something in there, there's some debris. I watched Mr. Gilliam last night build his Pontiac engine, and I guess the new cam bearings he put in had a coating on them that kind of put them out of spec, and he had to, I guess, take a little bit of that coating off to get the cam in. But again, no special tools or anything. I don't ever use them, but you just want to make sure this guy slides in super straight. You're trying to keep from nicking the lobes and nicking the bearings, and the further you get this thing in here, the easier it gets, because you're kind of getting some support. All right, and man, this thing's going in just butter smooth. You might get a little bit of resistance, especially if your hands are as greasy as mine in these gloves. Right here at the end, trying to get it lined up. All right, we are home. I'm gonna take this cam gear on here, just kind of use it for leverage. Come on now. These things are not super easy to line up. There we go. Just to try and spin the cam some, make sure, oh yeah, perfect. Not flopping around, not incredibly tight. We're golden. It's gonna be challenging getting this thing on. So let's see. Our dot's right there. And that puts us, I don't know how many teeth off. Yeah, this thing wasn't super fun. Oh, we're only one tooth off there. Or are we? Yeah, one tooth. Wow, there we go. That's the ticket right there. Dot, dot, cam installed, but I'm gonna have to pull this guy off, put our retainer plate on, torque it. I think it's 10 to 12 foot-pounds. You do not want to go crazy on these bolts. They will break. So I'm gonna put that on and we'll pick it back up. We're putting the timing chain on. I gotta take this crank bolt out. All right, got the crank sprocket on, cam sprocket. Kinda might be hard to see on camera, but dot, dot. So we're lined up, perfect dot to dot. When you put these on, guys, you're gonna wanna get your crank sprocket pressed all the way on. I use like a big socket, just kind of tap it on. This guy, it's like a 4-wheel drive socket. So it's not pressing up against the teeth, it's pressing against this flat plate here. Just kind of tap it on. You ain't got to be crazy about it. Then you hang the chain. You got it already in your cam sprocket. Hang it and just put it on there. It's going to be tight. Just make sure you get everything lined up. And everything gets blue Loctite. Everything. Your retainer bolt, your cam sprocket, all these bolts, blue Loctite. 21 foot-pounds, very strange torque spec, but that's what ChatGPT says. There we go, we're clicking, click, click, click. And if you want to, you can kind of spin, check, make sure there's no binding. Oop, engine's gonna turn. And the chain, she's super tight. Coming back around. Oop, went too far. I was trying to line the dots back up. Boom, there she is. So what we can do now is clean the surface here of our timing cover, get that guy installed, flip her upside down, get the oil pan in. Your timing cover on these has a big lip that the oil pan rests on. So it's better practice to do this guy first, and then flip it around, put the oil pan on. I guess you could theoretically kind of wedge the timing cover on with the oil pan on, but not the best practice. So I'm gonna get a new seal on that timing cover and start getting that fit up. We've almost built pretty much. I mean, it's not a small block Chevy, but it's a small block Chevy minus 2 cylinders. All right. Oiled up the timing chain before I put the cover on. Just put some of the old Ultra Slick all over everything. You don't want your timing chain totally dry. My timing cover kit, the gasket set, for some reason for this car did not come with the correct timing cover. It had one that kind of only went about this high. And in these years of GM, I don't know what was going on, but they have a lot of different timing covers. There's metal, plastic, aluminum, different sizes. I mean, start looking at like the different generations of big block and you'll see there's timing covers all over the place. So I guess I have one of the strange ones here also. Just make sure your alignment pins go in really well and you're not having to force it, because that kind of sets the spacing here around your crank snout, and that's going to help seal your harmonic balancer. And when you press your harmonic balancer on, make sure an RTV, the keyway on your balancer, you might get a little bit of a seepage leak there. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start at the top, kind of, whoa, that was a little tight. I might have to back that one off. Only 10 foot-pounds needed on these guys. So to solve my no gasket issue, I just put black RTV all the way around it and just, gave it the good gulf. I did make sure and put some good amount of RTV down here. There's another kind of seep spot there where this timing cover meets the block. So, I mean, Chevrolet didn't have it all right, but man, they had it close. These were good engines. Well, let's see, I'm gonna try 10 foot-pounds. Clicking. Click. On these, I just like to go over everything one more time after everything clicks, just to make sure. Click. Perfect. You want that kind of immediate click where your torque wrench isn't spinning any. I'm definitely going over some of these bolts twice. I'm just double checking myself again. This is a leak spot on a lot of these cars. You want to get the timing cover correct. And it's just kind of a pain to take off all the accessories to take care of one of these. All right. Timing cover on, and at this point I'm gonna leave our balancer off. We'll flip it, do the oil pan, and kind of call it a day, at least for now. I'm waiting on parts Should be here today from Summit to replace all these studs. And then again, going down that aftermarket rabbit hole, you replace the studs, then you need an aftermarket retainer for the stud. So you need poly locks. So poly locks, new roller tip rockers. I mean, we're getting there, folks. We're almost there. Okay, got our oil pan fit up, and if you've never done small block Chevy, you'll have big bolts on the ends, all 4 corners, 1/2 inch. The rest of this stuff's 3/8. So I'm gonna use the ratchet here, just snug stuff down. This thing, it ain't got a whole lot to it, so it's never gonna over torque anything. But what you want to do is just go back and forth. Crisscross pattern, inside out. These gaskets today for oil pans work pretty well. This is one of those real big, thick, one-piece jobs, and you definitely don't want to skimp out on your oil pan gasket on a 4x4 S series, because doing the oil pan with the engine in the car is almost impossible. If you guys have ever seen Alex with Legit Street Cars do his Typhoon, you saw how bad he struggled. I think he dropped the diff to do an oil pan. So keep that in mind while you're sealing up this thing. Whole plan is to not ever have to come back. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and torque everything down. So I'm gonna do 10 foot-pounds, little bolts, I think 12 or 14 on the big ones. Just kind of play it by ear. I think it might be 14, but 10, 14. And just got to pull the old drain plug out the old oil pan, put it in this one. This is a stock GM pan that I had for my Typhoon. It's the same exact pan as this generation S10, and my Typhoon already had AN lines in it, so this has a 10 AN drain already ready to go where it needs to be. So man, you know, it pays to be a complete hoarder. Haven't owned that car in 2 years, still got parts for it. Yep. All right, guys, studs came. Couldn't believe it. Studs came, and I was able to get these guys in, and these, so ChatGPT says no thread sealer needed, but guess what? Every one of these, if it doesn't go into the water jacket, it goes in somewhere else where oil can come up. So it's water jacket or intake. So one or the other. You can actually feel, if you go through this intake port, you can feel the bottom of that stud. So thread sealer, every one, 100%. And now we got to do some push rod check-ins. So I've put black marker on these 2 valves, the tips, and I got our push rods here. These are our stock ones we're hoping to reuse. We got them at 0 lash, which is essentially no up and down movement. They're not clattering around. What I do is from 0 do a half turn. So I go 1/2 turn, and that's kind of my spec. Could be different on different cars. If you're building something different, use that spec. Oop, she slipped a little. These guys are kind of deep in there. And I am just gonna go ahead and run the lock in case this does something. All right. We'll actually really tighten those at a later point. But what you want to do is keep track of how you're spinning it. So I'll start with my wrench straight up, and we'll go a full revolution. One. Let's go one more. Okay. All right. Should be able to check our valves. See if we got any kind of decent alignment. I don't know, but these lifters are pumped up because we literally just took them out of a running engine. They shouldn't be bled out an insane amount. And you can still kind of peek through if you need to see if you're on base circle. It's kind of helpful. You got the windows right there. All right, what do we got? Please be center. It's long-winded. Woo! Well, I mean, there's a piece of it that touches the middle. She's a little to the edge, but it does crest over the middle. I think we're probably gonna run it the way she is. I can look and see if there's like a spec, if you want to take it in just a hair, how much longer the push rods need to be, but I mean, it's not running off the valve one way or the other. I think I might just run it. So now I just got to go through, do every single other valve, get those guys in. But yeah, I think we're going to be fine. And the motor didn't hit any pistons. That's a plus. We got a ton of room. We got a ton of room inside this engine for lift, so we're fine. Go ahead, knock the rest of this out, and it's essentially the same thing. Get it on base circle for your intake and your exhaust. Run her down where there's no up-down play. Half turn, move along. Well, got the valve train all installed, all dialed in. Half turn, past zero. Bolted the water pump on, brake cleaned everything, taped off all my sealing surfaces. Don't paint over your sealing surfaces, especially if you're not prepping very well like I am, because that paint will lift eventually, and what'll happen is you'll get a leak at that sealing surface. Ask me how I know. So go ahead and tape all those off where you don't want paint to go, and then lay it on thick. Well, here she is all painted up. Pulled the masking tape off. And we went red because I plan on eventually doing, I don't know, a Cyclone, Typhoon type graphics tribute package on this truck. It's not gonna say Cyclone or Typhoon. It's gonna be my own nickname for this truck, but I wanna use that font, that color, and I think the red engine kind of sets it off. The red with the black oil pan, all the accessory drive will be black. Valve covers are stock black plastic, and then we'll just have that aluminum intake living, you know, right in the middle. So if you guys have been following along, man, this is a hobo rebuild. This isn't the correct 100% way to do it, but the engine's gonna run great, I promise you. Am I cutting corners here and there? Yes. Yes, you would want to do lots more measuring, lots more dialing stuff in. But luckily, the small block Chevy, even though this is a V6, so even this stuff, it's almost foolproof. As long as you're in the ballpark with the bearings and the rods and everything, it's gonna work. So I'm gonna press the balancer on, start getting some of the front accessories put on. Just try and clean up stuff, just get it as done as I can. I don't have motor mounts and some few other odds and ends that I'm waiting on to put it in the truck. But this video, I'm just gonna try and get it as complete on this engine stand as I can before I gotta pluck it, put the rear main, the flywheel, the clutch, all that on. So let's just continue on. Okay guys, I've reached a good stopping point on the engine here. I'm waiting on motor mounts, trans mounts, power steering hoses, just kind of some little stuff, but definitely need motor mounts in before I can drop it in the truck. I'm gonna kind of leave the intake about where it's at. I'm gonna put my lift plate on. I got temp sensor installed, the bypass, well, it's not a bypass, it would be if you were running it as a bypass, but the heater core hoses, the fittings for those are on. Man, everything went together smoothly. All the ARP hardware I got, put the thermostat on 180, running a 180. Don't like to go 160 unless I absolutely have to. Went ahead, installed a new pulley on the power steering pump. I saw that it was, when I pressed the new one on, she was wobbling. So went ahead, ponied up the 30 bucks for a pulley. I know, blew the budget. But kind of went through, just dusted stuff with some paint. I mean, valve covers, man, they were so full of junk that I was just scraping and scraping and scraping with a razor blade, and finally kind of got down to the plastic, because these guys aren't steel, it's plastic, and not too bad. They didn't scrape up a bunch or scuff them, and I believe I shot a flat black and then shot a little clear maybe over the top, but I'm just kind of waiting to get it in the truck to throw any more things at it. I kind of held the turbo headers and everything up here, and man, it's gonna look really, really cool. I've been sorting through some items. Felt like it was time to just start pulling everything out of the box. And we've got some tubing going on, some electric fans. I mean, we got the thing that's gonna make all the fun noises here. And it's not a tiny turbo. I went decent size. This, you know, I told you guys I used to run a Typhoon. This is a bigger turbo. Let's see if I can get that light out of the shot. It's kind of blinding, but this is a bigger turbo than what I ran on my Typhoon. Am I gonna make more horsepower or not? I believe more, because I'm running a cam, a bigger cam, better cam for the turbo setup. And I think the blow-through setup with the intercooler is probably more efficient than the General Motors fuel injection. Not, if you're running a Holley Terminator, you're gonna outperform the blow-through carb. But the early 90s fuel injection from General Motors, not the greatest. I mean, it was okay, but it was finicky, and you'd get some bucks and stumbles and weird stuff every now and then. You just kind of learn to live with it. But yeah, this stuff, super cool. Tubular headers. The cross pipe goes right in front of all the accessory drive, so it doesn't scoop under like what a Typhoon would or a Cyclone. It runs kind of right in front all your accessory drive. So no clutch fan, we're running electric fans. But I'm getting there, folks. I'm getting there. She's got an empty engine bay. It'll be full soon enough. And I'm just slowly collecting parts and junk for this. Got a new set of wheels that we're gonna put the drag radials on. Oh yeah. It's like I guess like a ZR1 style wheel, or if you had a SS Camaro from like early 2000s, I think they put that style wheel on. Perfect. It'll bolt right up, put some 275 40s, drag radials. And I kind of got to get all the weight on the truck to determine ride height. Like she's a little tall in the front and the rear, but you kind of can't make that decision yet. Put everything in, let me even sit in it, see what it looks like, because we got no gas. The gas tank's sitting on the floor. I got to put a fuel pump in it, and you know, it looks like we haven't came very far, but it's actually been a ton of work to get to this point. But this S10, soon enough, gonna be making turbo noises. I'm thinking actually next video in the series, I'm cranking it up and putting the beans to it and letting y'all hear the blow-off valve. So we'll at least get to there. I don't know if I'll have the all-wheel drive and everything dialed in. I think I'm just gonna do drop in, bolt the transmission up, get fuel, get the turbo plumbed, everything plumbed, because you got oil lines and everything else, but I think I set it up real easy. I mean, I think the hardest part's gonna be making the AN lines. But man, I hope you guys are enjoying this, and this is gonna be a really fun second gen Cyclone with a stick, how they should have made them. I know they're not as fast, but they're way more fun to drive, I promise you. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. Maybe you learned something, and maybe you might be willing to take the leap to just tear apart your old small block or 4.3, because they're pretty much exactly the same setup, and throw some bearings at it, throw a cam at it, get it all set up. Because I mean, this is at least worth 50 horsepower, and it's kind of crazy to think because it's a low horsepower motor. At least 50 with the heads and the cam. That's it. And the carb and intake setup's gonna be way more efficient. That's probably another 20, 25 tops, but you know, it's gonna make it run a lot better. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you could, like, comment, subscribe, hype. Let me know what else I should do to this thing, because I'm hoping to get finished quick enough where I can put some paint on it. Because, I mean, burgundy or maroon or whatever this thing is isn't bad. It's fine, but I can make it look way cooler. But until you guys see me again, just go out, do something that makes you happy, but make sure you're doing it on full blast. I'll see y'all later.